One man has led the effort to spend more on television and radio ads in the presidential race than any other in recent weeks. Of course, I'm talking about Karl Rove. His two groups, American Crossroads and Crossroads GPS, have spent more on television and radio ads in the presidential race than any other super PAC or advocacy group in recent weeks. Since September 10th, put together, Rove's groups have spent $47.4 million through October 18th. And just this week, American Crossroads unleashed $12.6 million for swing state media blitz, including the return of Clint Eastwood, political operative, to our airways.
Obama's second term would be a rerun of the first, and our country just couldn't survive that. We need someone who could turn it around fast, and that man is Mitt Romney. There's not much time left, and the future of our country is at stake.
Well, at least the president gets to appear as himself rather than as an empty chair in that one. But look, Rove is basically betting on this kind of spending making a difference. They don't, people don't spend money to advertise unless they think it's going to make a difference. Talk to me about 501c4s that Citizens United has kind of unleashed on this particular campaign.
A 501c4 is just another word for a charity. It's a social welfare organization that can spend its money on lobbying, or it can spend its money on influencing elections. It can only spend up to half of this money influencing elections. In the Citizens United case back in 2010, allowed those organizations to take it a step further and use corporate money to spend directly in the middle of elections, corporate and union money to spend directly in the middle of elections to, say, vote for or vote against. Now, this money is not new in politics, it's just exploded, right?
Yeah.
The court decision wiped away the gray area in our campaign finance law, so now there are really no limits to what outside groups can do. And so what we're seeing now is an explosion in that area, although it was a problem that existed before Citizens United.
So I want to pick up just a little bit on what Leslie was saying earlier. Was like, okay, it's sort of a both sides issue, in part because the 501c3s, right? The other, these are all named obviously for the codes, right? For the tax codes. So the 501c3s, where we actually see sort of an enormous number of progressive action going on in these nonprofits, everything from housing groups, they are barred, right? They can't write these checks. They can't, and so to me, that's where it feels like there is part of this critical asymmetry occurring. Is that right? That difference between the C3s and C4s? It's
only an asymmetry in the amount of money.
Yeah.
Really, there are 501c3s and 501c4s on both sides of the equation. There are ones that aren't ideological at all. Sometimes the group that benefits the local library is a 501c3. It's just a charitable organization. A C4, though, can spend money in elections, and because there is so many motivated donors, wealthy donors and corporations on the right, this election cycle to defeat President Obama, they are pouring money into these shadowy groups that don't have to disclose where.
So that $74 million spent in opposition to the president, with only $5.1 million spent in opposition to Governor Romney, isn't so much because of a law issue. It's because of an actual resource.
We saw the same disparity in 2004 when President Bush was the incumbent, and there was a very strong opposition to President Bush in that election.
So Ben, it's